Hey guys, it's me, Sarah. I'm here in my bedroom in the quarantine, and I just wanted to answer some questions. So this week we're talking about breathing. So I get a lot of questions about how to breathe in yoga and why it's so important, and yeah, a lot of different questions about breathing. So I wanted to do this video to kind of touch on all those things and give you guys some tips and some new thoughts. So I would start by saying the biggest thing with breathing is awareness. So no matter how you're breathing, you want to be aware that you are breathing. So that's why in yoga classes we're constantly saying, inhale, do this thing, exhale, do this thing. For example, inhale, lift your arms, exhale, fold. It's because we really want you and want to remind you that in the practice of yoga, it has to do with breathing and moving with your breath. So so just throughout your practice, I know it's really hard and I struggle with this, and I need to constantly remind myself to just breathe and just acknowledge, like, okay, I'm moving in this pose and I'm breathing. So I'm like, whatever you're doing in your yoga class, whether it's a really hard pose where your heart rate's really up and it's a struggle, or whether it's more of a stretching type posture or like restorative posture, that you're acknowledging your breath. And that is so much easier said than done. I know that I struggle in like a power yoga class. I'm like so into it and I'm like, okay, like let me get into this revolved like standing like twist or something. And I am like, oh my gosh, I forgot to breathe that whole time until the end of it when I took my vinyasa. So I'm totally there with you. That's why we remind you. It's not because yoga teachers want to like scold you. It's more just like we know that it's really, really easy to forget to breathe or to forget to think about breathing. That's why it's called awareness, because obviously we're always breathing, but being aware of it is what makes yoga the practice of yoga. So the first thing would be awareness. And I would say that if you really can't get a full deep breath, we want our breaths to be full and deep and conscious, then back out of the pose. Like if you're not, like if your breath is really short and like shallow, then that's a signal like, okay, I need to take a child's pose and like reset and take a deep breath, or I need to like back out of this stretch. Because if we're in a really like intense stretch and we're not like ready for it, or we're not open enough, then you're gonna notice you're just like holding your muscles, holding your breath, and that's not gonna help like your muscles stretch, because we often forget when we breathe that like we're breathing, we're getting oxygen from the air. The oxygen is going into our lungs, and what happens is it gets into your bloodstream. So the oxygen is oxygenating your blood, and that's going into your muscle tissues throughout your body. So I would say in a stretch, for example, you're not going to get as full of a stretch if you're going too far and you're not breathing full deep breath. So that's the second thing I would say, is that we want our breaths to be full and deep and long. So everyone is going to have a different length of breath. Like some people, their inhale is super long, their exhale is a little shorter, or maybe they have a shorter inhale and a longer exhale. I mean, everybody has different like lung capacity, you know, and sometimes you're congested and you can't really get full deep breath. So yeah, doesn't really matter how your breath compares to someone else. Just, you know, if you're taking a shallow breath or if you're taking a full deep breath. So yes, and I think a good practice to think about with breathing is thinking about expanding on the inhale and relaxing or kind of contracting or compressing a little bit, not like forcefully, but a little bit on the exhale. So I would say a good practice to do would be, it's called a 3-part breath. And the first part is you breathe in through your belly, then your ribs, then your chest, and then you exhale chest, ribs, belly. So again, inhale belly, ribs, chest, exhale chest, ribs, belly. And that's a really good one to practice at the beginning of your practice, to just be like, okay, I can breathe into my belly, my ribs, and my chest. And I can exhale, my shoulders relax down, my ribs kind of tug in, the bottom ribs kind of tug in, and the belly relaxes, and it almost, if you want to practice engaging Uddiyana Bandha, which is belly button up and in, a good way to practice is at the end of the exhale, so you relax the shoulders, relax the chest, and then you hug the belly in. So that leads me on to the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is belly breathing, and how it's really important, and how a lot of us in our culture and just in the stress of everyday life have trouble with breathing into our bellies. So I would say, for me personally, this was huge when I first began yoga. I had no idea how to breathe into my belly. I'm a ballet dancer, and we are told to suck it in, and I thought, oh, I could inhale through my chest, and then exhale. I usually would I could stick my belly out on the exhale and push it out, but I wasn't, that's not natural. That's not the natural motion for your breath. That's not sending your breath anywhere into your belly. So it was really frustrating for me, and I didn't want to relax my stomach. I didn't want to have lose strength in my stomach, but I think that was just not a good concept, because breathing into your belly is one of the most stress relieving things for your nervous system, and just for your nervous system. It's called your parasympathetic nervous system, so it is the rest and digest part of a response. So for example, it's like when you're sleeping, you're breathing through your belly, or when you're a little kid, you breathe into your belly when you're relaxed. So it's the opposite of if your heart rate is really up or you're really stressed, the energy is up here. You're breathing up here into your chest. You're not thinking about your belly, but if you breathe into your belly, it changes. It changes the nervous system, and just your whole mood can change by taking a deep belly breath. So it's really important, and that's why I want to show you guys one tip that I use to help people who have a really hard time connecting with that big balloon inhale into their belly. So for this, you're going to need to lie down on your belly, and I'm going to take my glasses off because they're a pain when you lay down. And so here, your belly is on the earth, which is awesome for this. You can do this in your bed if you want. Because you can really feel your belly expand on the inhale. Right away, I can feel on the inhale, belly pressing down into the earth, and exhale, sinking, kind of relaxing your whole body down a little bit more. Almost feels like your belly is inflating, kind of lifting your low back up a little bit, and you sink a little deeper on the exhale down. I really recommend doing this when you're overwhelmed. Just lay down on your bed, or if you have a space to lay down on the floor in your yoga mat, and just take a couple breaths into your belly. It's really, really helpful when you're feeling stressed. And it's a really good way to learn how to soften and bring the breath downward. Another place that I find specifically restriction, is in the back side of our torso. So yeah, like I said, like it's easy to think of breathing in through the front of your chest because your lungs are there, and it's easy to breathe into your belly once you get a hang of it, because this is like soft tissue, organs, you know, stuff that can kind of expand and move. But I think personally it's harder to breathe into the back side of your spine and allow that to be affected by your breath, because it's all connected. And when you inhale, you're displacing space in your whole torso because air is coming in, so it's got to go somewhere. It's going to go either in your chest or your belly, but it can also move into your upper back and lower back. And we often forget that, and I think it's something I've been working on because I have really tight muscles in my upper back, and I notice that I don't breathe into them because they're so tight. And if I just consciously, especially in the morning, and like trying to breathe into the back of my ribs, sometimes I feel like a stretch or like a crack in my upper back, which is really awesome. And it also makes me want to work on that more. So I would say if you're like me and you also struggle with breathing in your back, or you've never thought about it before, one way to work on it or think about it is to take a really restorative forward fold. So maybe bending the knees. You can have them long if your hamstrings are nice and open, but for most of us, we have to bend our knees. Either reaching your arms under or maybe over like this. Excuse me. And dropping the neck. Or if that's not comfortable, you can kind of keep it up. Or put it in your hands even. But here, our chest, our upper front of our chest is collapsed. So it's going to be hard to let it expand. So you're going to feel your breath go into your belly, but also think about on the inhale, breathing into your upper back. And releasing on the exhale. Again, breathing into the upper back. And exhale. So you might feel a little stretch in your upper back body, but you also might feel like you're rising up and then sinking down. So it's almost like you're floating, like we were on our belly. And it's kind of like, let's give a different example. Like you're a boat in the sea and the water comes up, your boat's gonna go up. I don't know if that's a good example, but it kind of rises and falls, rises and falls. And that's what you want to feel in a forward fold. So let me see if you can see. I'm gonna try to take a big breath and see if you notice. It's probably really slight, you probably can't see it, but that's going to help you breathe into the back of your body and also your belly, but the back of your body. And then the other place is we can breathe 360 degrees. So we talked about the front of our body, the back of our body, but sometimes we forget about our side body. I know I just posted a video that was a side body flow, but we forget, side note, check out my video, but we forget that we have space. We have these, your ribs actually expand. They can expand this way. You have lots of little muscles. They're called intercostals, but your ribs can expand sideways, and same with your torso can expand here. So what I like to do is kind of place my hands here, like around my ribs, and you can kind of feel like your fingers into your rib cage. This is just what I personally want to do. It's kind of a little bit of an arm stretch too, but so you can even see when I laughed there that my ribs expanded. So this is a good way to practice breathing sideways, is just inhaling in through the sides of your ribs and exhaling, allow them to just collapse inward a little bit. You can almost press in with your hands on your ribs. So inhale, exhale. And this is a good one too if you want to work on your exhale, allowing your belly button to drop to your spine, which is Uddiyana Bandha. Like I said, another video, we'll talk about that. But sometimes we can't breathe into our belly because we need to engage our abdominals. For example, in a plank or any other strong pose where we need that that drawing in to support us. So in that instance, I would say you can soften a little bit of that lock on the inhale, but I would say breathing into your chest and your back and the sides of your ribs especially, and then exhale, drawing belly button in. So you can try that here. So inhale into your ribs, sit up nice and tall, exhale, belly button draws in. 2 more like that. Should feel really supported in this kind of breath. Awesome. So we talked about all of the places you can breathe into and how you can add that to your practice. And I think it's a really nuanced way to approach your practice, is to say, where can I breathe into this pose? Where can I see in this twist, okay, I can breathe in here, into this side a little bit more. How am I breathing into both sides? You know, it's a really kind of explorative practice that can really enhance your yoga practice. But lastly, I just want to talk on breathing in through the nose and out through the nose or the mouth. So that's another question I get a lot is, hey, should I be breathing in through my nose, out through my mouth? Because other people aren't, but then you say, like, to exhale out through your mouth sometimes. So it can be really confusing for beginners and just something we need to talk about more during our yoga classes, I think. So I would start by saying awareness, like we said at the beginning, is number one. So if you're congested, for example, and it's really hard for you to breathe out through your nose, I know I have a lot of allergies lately, is don't force it. Like, if you can't get a deep, full breath out through your nose, open your mouth, let it exhale out. Like, even if you're super congested and you can barely breathe in through your nose, like, breathe in through your mouth every once in a while. Like, it's all good. But I will say that in a vinyasa class, typically we want to use what's called an Ujjayi breath, which is in through the nose and out through the nose. And we do this for a couple reasons. First of all, it kind of is heating, so it keeps the heat in. So when you breathe out through your mouth, that's considered cooling, because, like, if you're running, for example, you're getting really hot and you're naturally breathing out through your mouth to let that heat go, because there's not, it's just cooler, because, like, your nose, you have like, it's just warmer. There's, like, nose hairs. I don't know the exact science, probably not that, but it's cooler out through your mouth. So when we're doing a vinyasa class, especially, we're trying to build heat, right? So we slowly start warming up, we get warm, and then we slowly bring it down, but we want to stay kind of warm. So our muscles are warm, our body temperature is warm. So classically, we would use the Ujjayi breath, and that is in through the nose, out through the nose, to keep that heat in. But another part of the Ujjayi breath that we can practice now together is that we have a constriction in the back of our throat. So we kind of can hear it. It sounds like an ocean, or that's what Ujjayi means, or it also can mean victorious, from what I've learned. But it's really important that you can hear your breath, because that grounds you and that centers you. And that's another part of yoga that's really important, is that awareness of your breath. You can hear your breath. So it centers you and grounds you into what are you inhaling? Are you exhaling? Is it full and deep? How do you feel? Like, it's just that sound of your breath you should think of that as like your guide, and it should be like the soundtrack to your practice. So a lot of times, my personal practice, I do not put music on, which kills part of me because I love music. I love dancing around, but I found that I'm like so into the music, I don't hear my breath. I only hear the music, and I hear the teacher, or like I hear thoughts going on in my head. And instead, I want to hear my breath. I don't want to hear those thoughts. I don't want to hear the music I'm playing. I want to hear my breath. So you inhale through the nose, and then you exhale, constrict the back of your throat, and it kind of is like a Darth Vader, or whatever his name is, like sound. It's kind of like an ocean wave sound. So let me see if I can, I don't know how close I am to the camera, but it's so it's kind of like it's a weird thing to find, and if you've never done an Ujjayi breath, it's kind of tricky. Some of us have more trouble than others, but it's like you're fogging up a mirror. You're like making a ha, like a ha sound, like an H sound, but it's inside. So if you go, you can kind of feel, that little constriction, and then just slowly getting to a point where you can do that with your mouth closed. And yeah, it's a really great breath. I recommend that to most of my students, but it's kind of tricky to get it first. So don't expect that you are going to be able to make it through a whole 60-minute class doing that constriction in the back of your throat if you've never done it before. It's definitely something to work up to, and I know I have to take breaks with it because it's actually really challenging for me, the Ujjayi breath. But it's really, really grounding and centering, like I said, because you can hear it. And the last thing I would like to say in this long rambling video, I usually ramble a lot on these Q&As, is that as we go through our class doing our Ujjayi breath or whatever breath we choose, sometimes a teacher, I know I do this, will say, okay, big breath together. Inhale through your nose, exhale out through your mouth, let it go. And I do this a lot, and it's for a couple different reasons. One, like I said, the awareness. Sometimes we forget to breathe, and inhale, exhale, that cue doesn't work, and we just need to like let more of an audible sound than just the Ujjayi breath out. So it needs to be like, and you can feel it a little bit more. That exhale, that audible sound. And it brings our awareness back to our breath. Okay, we're back in it. We're back in our practice. We're back and aware of our breath. The second reason is we do it is it's really good in the middle of our practice when we start to feel the breath becoming more shallow because we're getting warmed up. So I found that sometimes we're breathing nice and deep, and then we get to the middle of our class, we're sweating, and we're not breathing. So we need to let some heat out, like I said, and be able to come back to our breath. And the last reason is because it's really, really therapeutic and stress relieving to take that. It's called a cleansing breath for a reason. It really cleanses like any like buildup or stress. It can be really great as we're moving to just like sigh it out, like make a noise with your mouth, like reconnect, and yeah, just nice cleansing breath to kind of reset everything. I love when I'm in a class and everybody like takes a huge cleansing breath together. I can hear people like like letting it go, and I just think it's like the most amazing thing, just as a group, to feel that therapeutic effect of our practice together. So yeah, that's all that I have today for this video. I know we talked about a lot. We talked about breathing awareness, breathing 360 degrees into our belly, chest, back, and sides of our ribs, and different tips that I gave you to help work on that. And we also talked about our Ujjayi breath. So if you have any questions about this video, please add in the comments below. I'm thinking about maybe posting some meditation videos. Maybe we'll do some breathing exercises or pranayama in those videos to work on different techniques. There's a lot more complicated, or not complicated, but more kind of prescribed and like in-depth breathing exercises that we can totally do on my YouTube channel. I just want to see what you guys are looking for and what you want to learn. I hope this video was helpful. Like I said, just add to the comments if you have any more questions about breathing. Thank you guys. Have a great day.